So hello and welcome to our next episode of In Conversation With. Today I'm meeting the lovely Kate Bullman. Kate's had an extraordinary experience. She is going to tell you about her life, her work and her experience, and also her passions going forward that have come out of her unique experience. Just to give you a little upshot, Kate went through the menopause at 26, and she was diagnosed with less than a 1% chance of conceiving naturally and was told IVF would be a no-go for her. Kate's here today because we are passionate about supporting women and talking about things that tend to get shoved under the carpet, and we want to talk about menopause and perimenopause, and in particular when it might happen to younger women and what that might unfold as, what their experience might be, and how we can all help each other learn and grow. So Kate, welcome. It's really lovely to have you. Would you mind just filling in everybody about your experience and, particularly that day when you were given that diagnosis, how did that go for you?
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having me. Where do I start? I started my periods when I was 9 years old, so I was really, really young. And then I just suffered with really bad period pains, like really heavy flow. When I was a teenager, I went onto the pill. And then when I was about 24, I came off of the pill. And then I had really, really irregular periods, and then they completely stopped. I wasn't really tracking my period at the time, so that's definitely like one of the things I always say to people now is just really try and tune into your natural cycle. So I, at some point, realised that I hadn't had a period for quite a while, and then as time went on, I was thinking, oh, okay, so it has actually been quite a few months. And at that point, I started having all of the symptoms of going through the menopause, but at the time I didn't know, I had no idea that that's what it was. So I kept going back to the doctors. So I think I was going over to the doctors for about 2 years, I think, before I was diagnosed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what were those symptoms then that it kind of got overlooked for quite a while?
Yeah, so initially I thought I was having anxiety attacks. So I was having hot flushes, but they would happen just randomly when I was at work. At night time, I would wake up and I'd have a really sort of beating heart. And then I'd just be like covered in sweat. And I was just like, oh my God, I honestly thought something was seriously wrong with me. And then I had really low mood, brain fog, like a really foggy brain, which I still have, and now I really find it hard to know if it's baby brain or just like my menopause brain. I have no idea. And then I was eventually diagnosed with going through the menopause. So I did actually have some tests done that came back with the results, but there was a bit of a mishap with the doctor's surgery and I didn't get the results. And then a few months later, I went back to the doctors. And then she said, oh, have you not had your results? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh, you're going through the menopause. And I was like, what? How is this possible? Because for like quite a few months, I had joked with my family, sort of said, oh, I feel like I'm going through the menopause. And everyone was like, no, you're not. You're way too young for that. The doctors didn't even suspect it, to be honest. I think it's quite rare. I think only about 1% of women actually go through it in their teens, their early sort of 20s or 30s. So it is quite rare, I guess.
So how old were you at that point when you were sat there and had that kind of shock diagnosis?
I was 26.
Wow. I think
Yeah.
everyone should just take a minute to sort of put themselves in your shoes for that moment. Young woman, 26, kind of your whole life ahead of you and all the things that we get ingrained in our culture as to what that means. Wow. How did that land with you?
I was in shock, like absolutely in shock, to be honest. At that point, I didn't really understand. I think my main thing was like, well, what about children? Because I come from a really close family. We've always got loads of children running around, and I always known that I wanted to have my own family. I think my initial thing was like, well, how is this going to affect me? What can I do? So I had loads of tests done. And then there was a test that I could have, which was to check your ovarian reserve. And I remember that I was supposed to go by myself to have the results. And then I decided, just in case, I'm always quite an optimist. So I was like, it'll be fine, it'll be okay, maybe, I'll be able to have IVF or freeze my eggs before it's too late. And then the day before, I called my friend Julianne and I said, can you come with me? So she came with me and we went to the appointment together. And I had like a chart which sort of showed your age and then sort of like the decline of when you sort of hit 30. And I was thinking maybe I'll be in the middle of that. And I remember the doctor saying, oh, it's 0.001. And I had my graph, I was all prepared and had my graph thinking, well, where is that? And it wasn't even on the graph, it was like below. And then I was like, oh, and then my friend burst out in tears because she's had children. So I think it probably hit her more at that point than what, I think I was in shock maybe. I just thought, oh, okay. I was just like, oh. And then I drove my friend home, dropped her off, and then I called my mum and I said to her, I said, oh, yeah, they said less than 1% chance of ever getting pregnant, and I can't have IVF or my eggs frozen. My mum cried, and I was like, oh, stop crying, put dad on. And then she put my dad on, and then he started crying, and I was like, oh, not you as well. And I think I was just in shock. And then I went shopping, and then I don't think it really hit me until I think maybe a few months later. I think it's like just thinking. And I would say it took me 2 years before I not accepted it, but thought, right, okay, there's adoption, donor eggs, all of that stuff. I'd always wanted to adopt anyway. That was always sort of something that I'd always hoped to do. And then I went traveling with my now husband, and we were in the Philippines. And then, I think it was about 8 weeks later, I realised that I was pregnant. Just as I was about to start my HRT, it was about the day before I was about to start my HRT, and I did the test, and then it came back positive. And I was like,
wow. So if you'd have taken the HRT, would that have affected your chances of having a baby as well?
No, so it's similar to the pill, but it's not, I don't think it's as high a dosage as what you would have with the pill. So it doesn't act as a contraception or anything like that. I think I would have been put on, so basically when you go through the menopausal or perimenopausal, you have your estrogen sort of decreases, and then the long-term health implications of that are your bones can't absorb calcium. So I was always also told that if I didn't take any medication, then by the time I was 40, I'd have the bone density of an 80-year-old. We also need estrogen to protect our sort of cardiovascular system, our brain. So I think me going on HRT was just more of sort of a decision. I had to like weigh up the risks, pros and cons of all of the different things, but I decided, to go on HRT. But I don't think I think you can still get pregnant on HRT, I think.
Okay, so that moment, you're in the Philippines, miles from home now, with it being the most unexpected, and obviously, you're not planning it, you're just thinking this is just never going to happen in a million years scenario, and you do that pregnancy test just in case so that you can go on your HRT and it's like happy days, and you see the results. What went through your mind at that point?
I was like, oh, this is very cruel. Why does it say that? And then I did all my research, and there was like in the small print, and it said, if you're going through the menopause, then sometimes it can give a misreading. So I was just like, what? And then I managed to go to a doctor's and had blood tests, and then the results came back the next day, and then it said that I was pregnant. So I could not believe it.
Wow. So a real miracle baby.
Yes, that's actually written in my medical notes.
Really?
The doctor actually wrote that down. And then another specialist just said, wow, all of your stars must have been aligned for that to happen. So yeah, I feel like incredibly blessed for that.
Oh, and from my sort of yoga philosophy background, I'd say that your little one was very keen to be coming in and incarnating with you as his mama. So, you know, I'm sure he had some part to play in this.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, I've got all goosebumpy. And then what did you say to your partner? How did you break the news to him?
Well, we weren't even living in the same country at the time because I'd moved over to Brussels to work. So at that moment, we were still living in separate countries. So we were a bit like, oh God, what do we do now? So I spent most of my pregnancy alone in Brussels, and then moved back to the UK, yeah, just before he was born.
Wow, 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 wow. So then you had your baby, and then I guess there's like a huge hormonal shift around pregnancy and birth and early motherhood. What was your experience of that like? And was there a part of you that thought, now that you've had your baby, could all of your hormones maybe be reset, and would it change that chance of having maybe a second baby further down the line? And did you have to go and speak to people about what that might be and find out more information? How did that all go for you?
Yeah, so I did actually go back to the doctors not long actually after my little one was born, just to ask those exact questions, and the answer was like, we don't know. So because I was breastfeeding, they couldn't do any tests anyway because that was keeping all of my nice hormones going. And then when I stopped breastfeeding, that's when all of the symptoms just rushed back again. So I had really intense hot flushes, and it really, really was intense at that time. I was really struggling at work just to get through the day. I was having to take like 2 spare tops into work with me because I would have a hot flush.
People that don't know what a hot flush is, because, you know, we've all heard about it. We've all heard that, you know, those women over there get a hot flush. What's it like? What happens? How long does it last for? Why did you need these extra tops? Are you literally soaking wet?
Yes, like my whole back would be wet. And until my husband sort of touched my back, I said, just touch my back. And he was like, whoa. He had no idea that it would literally just suddenly drench me. And I would say that for me, I mean, women experience them so differently. There's so many different levels. And I think for me, I'd have this sudden, almost like intense doom, or sort of this sudden, like almost like a sinking feeling, as if something terrible was happening or something had happened. And then it would be like this internal heat, and it would just, I just don't know how to explain it other than I would just start sweating here, my whole back. It was intense. Yeah.
Does your heart rate get more as well? So it feels
Yeah.
like sort of like you've just run a quick marathon sort of feeling.
Yeah, I always thought
Full on
that
stress response.
it is, yeah, and exactly. And I'd be sat at my desk trying to work, and then every sort of half an hour I'd have these sort of like stress. It felt like I was sort of in a heightened stress response constantly.
Yeah.
And it really affects you sort of mentally, physically. And I think as women, we're always sort of go, go, go. And, you know, we either have our careers and we're just trying to keep on top of that, or we've got children to look after. And sometimes I think when you get to that point in your life where you start to experience these symptoms, it's almost like a point where you need to pause and take a step back and then reevaluate everything and think, what is causing stress in my life? How can I sort of decrease that? But then sometimes that is impossible to do when you have got, you know, toddlers running around or teenagers and you're trying to work. So it's a really tricky balance for women.
That's so interesting that you frame it like that. So you're kind of sort of saying that, yes, like women in our culture particularly have these very busy lives, multiple responsibilities. If we're not caring for our children, we might be caring for friends or elderly relatives, or, you know, we hold a lot of stuff. But there's almost within the experience of the hot flushes and all of those symptoms, a really deep knowing of, okay, what do I need to shift and change? where can I reduce the stress out of my life? So could you say, is that something that lots of women that go through this kind of observe about their life and the relationship between stress and the hot flushes? Is this a kind of common conclusion, if you like, that women kind of get to, or are we still trying to, you know, be super busy and do everything and we're ignoring what our body's really trying to tell us?
I think it's such a mixture. I think some women are just try and keep going, and then they probably do get to like a breaking point. I know so women that have done that. I sort of did that. I kept trying to go, and then I just reached breaking point, and then I sort of had to I was forced to pause, let's say, and then I had to reevaluate, and I went part-time at work. That was the only way that I could cope, really. And so it's such a shame so many women do have to do that, but that there is like so much out there now that can really help women with their help to sort of cope with their symptoms. So
what kinds of things would you suggest, or where might you signpost people to if they might be experiencing some of these symptoms? And maybe if you could just run through, you know, what might these key symptoms be, so people have got it on their radar, because like you said, you were looking around for 2 years trying to get someone to help you, and it took 2 years before the doctors kind of nailed it. So what might women need to be thinking about?
Yeah, so any changes in their cycle, so perhaps like heavier bleeding or maybe irregular. So some women might not have a period for like quite a while, or they might have like a really short gap in between their periods. Sometimes we might, we might notice that our mood changes. So I definitely noticed that in myself. Sometimes we can't sleep very well, forgetfulness, brain fog, hot flushes. Women don't obviously experience all of these symptoms. Some women don't experience any at all, and then some might just get a few, or some might get all of them. Migraines as well. That's sort of one of the things I definitely had. I mean, gosh, there's such a whole list of them, really. But yeah, definitely I use a period tracker now, sort of to keep track of my periods, because they keep disappearing and then they'll just randomly come back again.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really sensible, good advice for all women, to keep tracks of their periods, even if they're not even thinking about menopause or perimenopause, because just getting to know your cycle, how you feel in that week 1 when you're bleeding, and then the second week, and then the third week, and then the fourth week, it's almost like for me, it sort of is a bit like the seasons of the year, and we have that each month, that cycle. And often, like in my early 40s, completely forget what I'm like at different points in my cycle, and those moody days, or the days I feel I can't face the world, catch me out every month, and I completely forget it's my cycle, it's my hormones, I'm going to be okay soon. And when I started tracking, it just helped take that pressure off, and I knew, if we were having arguments or something, I could go, oh, okay, it's that, and have learned different strategies. So I think all women should get more in touch with their cycles. I think it's a really valuable tool.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've got 3 teenager nieces, or they've just sort of started their periods, and I actually bought them the book Period Power, and I sent it to them, and they were probably thinking like, why is she giving us this book? But I was like, please read it, because the more that I sort of started researching and looking into it, and the more that I learned, I just wish that 6-7 years ago that I realised that. Because like you say, when you sort of tune into your cycle, everyone just needs to do it, basically.
I think we should have a follow-up call where we just talk about cycles, because my one thing I'll drop in today was just learning about how to rest when I'm actually bleeding. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to feel that I have to get a pair of roller boots on and go roller booting down the seafront, because that's what we saw in all the adverts. When you've got your period, don't stop. And it's like, actually what we really need to do is honour our body and rest. And I've really learned so recently that if I really give that time in the month, the rest of the month I've got so much more energy, so it really pays off. I love that book, it's amazing. What a good idea to give it to your nieces.
Yeah, definitely. I bought it for my friend actually for her birthday a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I think that's so true, and it's true for just our monthly cycles. when we're new parents. So I met a friend earlier, so she's a new mum, and she was going to attend my mum and baby class yesterday actually, and she messaged me and she just said, I actually just need to sleep today during his nap. And I was like, perfect. I'm so glad that you're listening to your body. Just rest if you need to. So, and I think that's key for menopause as well. Listen to your body. If you need to rest, just rest.
So it sounds like there's lots of things that we can do to help us if we're having these kind of menopause, perimenopausal symptoms. What kind of could be sort of quick wins for people to have a go at home if they're suffering from some of those kind of symptoms that you were describing? What things could they try to do themselves, or is there any kind of foods that might be suggested? You know, what quick tips, what quick wins have you got?
So I would always say, like, definitely just speak to your GP, and just have like your blood work, have full blood work, just make sure that there's nothing else going on as well. Yoga has been incredibly helpful for me to help me manage all of the stresses, the breathing, just the movement, the fact that I can, you know, pick and choose. If I need a bit more of a restorative practice, then I can do that. So definitely yoga, and nutrition. Just make sure that you're eating lots of fruit and vegetables, and sleep is key. I think if I don't have enough sleep, I really notice all of my symptoms a lot more.
Amazing, that's really good tips. And what's happening moving forward, because you sound quite passionate and motivated about this, so what have you got your sights on?
So I really want to do my training in supporting women through yoga for menopause, and also like the fertility side of stuff as well, just because I've benefited so much through my yoga practice, to being able to offer women that I really, really would love to do. Also, we've just recently set up our Facebook group and WhatsApp group. So that will just hopefully just grow to be a really supportive hub for women. I've really noticed that there is so much information out there for the menopause, but I definitely felt a little bit isolated, because it was quite either, I think, aimed at older women or all younger women. There wasn't anything for sort of a bit for everybody. So I really hope that we can create that and share lots of information, and just, I think women just need to be seen and heard as well, and just know that they're not alone. I felt so alone when I first started going through it, and I've definitely noticed especially in the last year, so many people are just talking about it now, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, we have to get rid of all these taboos and honour the whole woman and everything that she goes through, all the highs and all the lows, and bring it all to the table. I think there's a great deal of authentic power for everyone in that, and it's going to be gorgeous. So what we'll do at the end of the video, or in the kind of show notes in the comments, we'll add in the links to the WhatsApp group and to the Facebook groups, and they're going to be private spaces that anyone who's experiencing any of those symptoms can join, and also anyone that is an expert in it, from your different perspectives of becoming an expert and your journeys. We'd love you guys to all join it, not guys, gals, to all join it as well, so we can start building that community. Amazing. And I just thought, when you were saying about having a space where women can be seen and heard and not feel alone, I think it could also be great if we do some Zoom women's circles just for women that are in those groups, so we can actually come together and hold a bit of space for each other.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yay, amazing, Kate. Well, it's so incredible to hear your story and hear all about your lovely miracle baby and that massive journey that you've been on. And also, I just feel massively kind of in awe and inspired, how what might at the time have seemed like the biggest roller coaster of experience is now actually bringing you into a place where you've kind of got an opportunity to sort of fulfill your full potential, really bring something forth into the world that's going to help others through that experience. And I just love that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us all. And I'm really honoured to have you in my friendship group and in my team, and hopefully we can do some cool stuff together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for just allowing me to share my story today. It's been really nice. Thank you.
You're really welcome. So everyone, we will be back again soon with another In Conversation With. We look forward to seeing you. And if you liked what you saw, you want to get involved, you want to be interviewed, or just share what we're talking about, that would be amazing. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Bye.